are here now with me and Matt. I'm Matt Falvey. That's Matthew Owen.
What's up, guys?
We're going to be talking about two video games today. I'm going to be talking about Super Fire Pro World. And Matt, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about Serial Cleaner, my dudes. It's a great game.
Who wants to go first?
No, you go first here because Fire Pro is something that I've heard of and I know kind of like I'm in the zeitgeist of Fire Pro.
Yeah.
But this is something new, and I know that you are both a wrestling fan and a game connoisseur. So I'm wondering what your opinion on it is in general.
Fire Pro Wrestling is a Japanese wrestling game. First came out in that whatever that 8-bit computer console the Japanese market had, like I don't know what it was called, but you could
I
play.
know what you're talking about.
You could play the first
blank.
Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 on it.
Nintendo Entertainment System.
Sort of, but something different. And then it came out on the Super Nintendo. It was on the PlayStation. The Sega Saturn had it. The PlayStation 2 had a revival for it. PS3 had like a PSN version of the PS2 version. And then it sort of went dormant. They had a phone version, but I don't think that did as well. But now it's making its return onto Steam. The whole gist of Fire Pro is, number one, the grappling system is all about timing. So two wrestlers come together. Yeah. When they touch, their arms rear back, and then when they touch their hands, whoever presses the button in the most timing without going too early will win the grapple. However, you have a light and you have a medium and a heavy attack. You cannot do the medium or the heavy attacks until they're sufficiently tired and worn down. The second best thing about this game is how authentic it is to wrestling. They have so many moves. They just love the sport. They truly love everything about it. Take it very seriously. In Japan, wrestling is taken very seriously. Yes?
I was going to ask you that because Fire Pro, we know WWE. That's the American, that's wrestling to us. Fire Pro, since it's Japanese created, and you say they have a lot of love for the sport, do they use Japanese wrestlers? Are there any U.S. known wrestlers? Is it a custom roster with just a really good combat system, or what's going on with character selection?
Here's the thing: what they would do, because Japan has very loose copyright laws, so they would have all Japan and New Japan wrestlers, and then they would have this roster of like Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker. And they would look exactly like them. They would act like them. They do the moves.
Yes.
But the names would be different. It would be like Bulk Borgen.
So like some Chinese knockoff game console stuff.
Yes, except it would be like a Chinese knockoff would be if it looked like it, but it was terrible. This is like if somebody gave you something that was identical to a PS4, but it was just called the Bray Station.
It's like when you buy a handbag and you're not sure if it's real or really, really good fake.
Exactly.
Like the Chinese knockoff thing, I guess, was insinuating that it's bad. But Fire Pro is good. I also hear it's super retro. Is that true? Like visually?
They never went 3D. They fully embraced large sprites, beautiful animation. It's a really nice looking game. If you know what Fire Pro is and you were looking for an HD Fire Pro you can play on Steam and use the Steam, here's the best thing. Because it has such a deep creator wrestler, people have always gone and made all their own rosters. Steam Workshop lets you just click, download things, and they're like kilobytes of size. It's so small.
So it's the Mugen of wrestling games. You can just download custom rosters.
Yeah, baby. So
that's sick.
It's so great.
Awesome.
It was out for 3 days when I got on there, and every wrestler, modern wrestler I wanted, every classic wrestler I wanted. Super Mario and Luigi are on there. Homer Simpson. Wrestlers from the NES wrestling game called Pro Wrestling, like Starman. Zangief is in it. Wolf Hawkfield from
I was
Virtua
going to
Fighter.
ask you, so Fire Pro is arcadey a wee bit. I would say it's a little bit more arcadey than your 2K18 or whatever. But I've heard a lot of fans. See, I'm not super into wrestling games, but I've heard a lot of people not so happy with WWE 2K16, 2K17. Is there enough technicality and depth within the gameplay mechanics to warrant serious play, or is it just a casual wrestling experience for fans and newcomers alike? What side does it fall?
It's casual in the way that there's only one thing you really need to learn how to do, and that's the timing. But it's deep in the way that everything you've ever wanted to do in wrestling, you can do. And they have, cage matches, exploding barbed wire matches, like battle royals where you can tweak every single setting. If you want to have it so over the top eliminates them, but they still wrestle or they leave, or if there's pins, or if like there's rope breaks, or if you can use weapons. This is like, if you love to tweak and get in there, tweak the hell out of matches, make your own promotions, make your own stables. Like this could be like a fantasy wrestling fan's dream. And I would say that the grappling system is a million times better than anything 2K's done probably ever. The 2K series, in my opinion, is terrible. It's terrible. It comes out every year. They don't innovate anything, and it's just not fun. The grappling system is awful.
Grappling hasn't been good since like WCW versus NWO on N64, but here's my question.
That's the best.
The tweakers are going to enjoy this, not tweakers like that kind of tweaker, but those who like to tinker with the options, who maybe those tweakers will also enjoy this. But what I'm not hearing is there a plethora besides the modes of like, is there a campaign? What about multiplayer offerings? Can I play this with friends? Can I suplex a friend via local or perhaps online multiplayer? Or is this just
local,
a single?
Local for sure, online for sure. It's nice. in early access right now for $20.
Double nice.
The battle royals, you can do 8 people in a ring at a time. I didn't investigate the multiplayer because I played a one-on-one match. I have terrible internet here. I'm living out in the country.
Understandable.
2 megabyte uploads. So I did one match and it was too laggy. But so I can't speak to how good that is or what the modes are going to be for that. But I'm sure that they're going to just keep it. It's this Fire Pro. The developers have always been about putting as much into it as possible and letting you tweak as much as possible. If you know Fire Pro is and you've wanted an HD remaster with Steam Workshop support, this is it. If you're looking for a wrestling game that is all about timing and really respects the sport and isn't just about making Triple H's hair look less like an octopus, then this is a game worth getting. I've made a video about what I think the best wrestling game is of all time. It's on the 90s Kid YouTube channel where you're watching this, and I put in, I'll spoil it. I gave it to the N64 games. I think that they do a better job of letting you get some kind of advantage where I could throw you, I could hit you down, I could come up behind and sort of sneak attack. Whereas the problem with Fire Pro's grappling dynamic is that no matter what, like if I hit you with 10 moves in a row, when we go into that grapple, it's always 50-50. It's not even 50-50. It's always whoever has the better timing. So you can never really get like, if you watch wrestling, one wrestler will have control for a while, and then the other one will have control for a while. And it's sort
a
of
give and take.
Yeah, they take turns leading the dance. Whereas Fire Pro is just always who has the best timing. So you'll never be able to beat somebody who has better timing than you. Whereas in Revenge, there are multiple ways you could sort of, like Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, and No Mercy. There are other ways you could get around that. You could run at them where you could sort of... It's a superior system, but this is the second best system, and it's a lot of fun.
Skill based. It sounds very skill based and very pure in its mechanics. Yeah. No frills, no fluff, if you will. In terms of of those mechanics, it's deep. I mean, you could throw people out, set them up on a table, and then jump off the top rope from the inside to the outside. That's the kind of shit I like. Yeah, like you can recreate a lot of cool stuff in wrestling. It's beautiful animated and drawn. And there's a lot there for wrestling fans. And until we get another version of the N64 one, which we probably never will, even though WWE did do a poll, which wrestling game do you want to see remastered? And overwhelming people WCW? They said, it was actually No Mercy, I think, because that was the last in that line. But Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, and No Mercy are all the same engine. Yeah, I mean, those are all really good games. And I just have one last thing to say. It's still real to me, damn it. I thought you were going to say you just got 2 words for me. No, I wouldn't do that to you. That's dirty. So positive on the wrestling, the Fire Pro? It's Fire Pro, baby. And if you don't know what Fire Pro is, then it's a great wrestling game for $20 that you could have a lot of fun with if you like tweaking around. You too could be a pro at Fire Wrestling, but what if you're looking for something a little bit grimier, a little dirtier? Matt, can I regale you with this game that I've been playing? Serial Cleaner. So every single person that has seen this game and has tried to describe this game, and I agree with the sentiment as well, is that it's what happens directly after Hotline Miami happens. So if you've never played Hotline Miami is a top-down 2D shooter where you kind of just run around with a guy and shoot people, and it's very maze-like kind of, but it's high octane, very high reflex. But it's in this 2D kind of space. In Serial Cleaner, you play as a cleaner. He's a guy who goes in after the bloodshed has been, done, after the murders have been committed, and he cleans up the bodies and gets rid of the evidence. It looks visually like Hotline Miami. Matt, have you ever played Hotline Miami?
I love it.
All? Okay, so that whole way that they represent, if you've never seen Hotline Miami or a top-down kind of game that's like this, it might be hard to understand. So maybe in a sidebar, like just Google Hotline Miami real quick, gameplay. The way that Serial Cleaner displays 3D in a 2D environment is really cool. Additionally, because they use foreground and background and layering almost in a way that Paper Mario does, because the game has this very, very cool aesthetic. It takes place in the 70s, all right? So it has these really vibrant colors and like hot crimson reds and cool beiges and stuff like that. And so the whole color palette is really appealing. But I think the reason I like this game the most is it's a stealth game that doesn't suck. Matt, here's a rhetorical question, but actually I'm sure you could think of the answer. What's the worst part about a stealth game?
Getting caught.
Okay, so here's a stealth game for you. You walk, ooh, you got seen. Oh, it's too bad. Now you can't hide in that bin because the guard saw you, right? You're done. Okay. In this game, essentially you're running around the map and you're doing a few things. You're either picking up bodies and bringing them back to your car to drop off. You're vacuuming up blood, which when run across actually gives you a speed boost, and you're collecting evidence, all right? And most of this is done while there's police officers and people who patrol around the area, and they have cones of sight. This is pretty much, your standard thing. So you're trying to avoid the guy's cones of sight while you pick up the bodies, move around, and be stealthy. Eventually, throughout the game, you get like, oh, I can distract them with a speaker here, or I can do this or that. The best part about this game, though, is if someone sees you, all you have to do is make a beeline to the closest hiding spot and just hide in it. And it's literally deletes all of the aggro. The police won't reach in and grab you. So what the game is essentially a game of cat and mouse where you're trying to run around this map, pick up the bodies, and if someone sees you, you drop the body and run to a hiding space. But the whole pull of the game is just this weird aesthetic where you're literally cleaning up gruesome crime scenes in the 70s. It's one of those visual things that is, visually speaking, it's almost worth it on its own. But the gameplay, for me not liking stealth and actually being into the game, is a big up for it. Because I'm not a stealth guy. There's very few games that I like that are stealth. Matt.
So you're basically like the... This is like the scene in Pulp Fiction when they bring in like Harvey the Wolf and they got to clean everything up.
Also, like the Keanu Reeves masterpiece, Help Me Here. Why can't I remember it? His dog dies. That's the whole reason.
John Wick.
Yeah, like John Wick in the beginning, if you've seen that movie, when he kills like 20 people and then he calls a dude who's like, let's get care of it. You're that dude, but like you vacuum up blood with an actual vacuum cleaner. It's much more arcadey.
So it's sort of like Super Mario Sunshine and Hotline Miami.
I would say that it's not as much like Super Mario Sunshine because that kind of implies that the whole entire ground is covered with blood. So usually when you start a level, it'll be like collect 2 bodies or, one piece of evidence and vacuum up this amount of blood, like 40% of the blood or 50% of the blood. And the blood is usually splattered in pools around the bodies. What the game really is after its first few levels is kind of you can hold down a trigger or press a button on your keyboard if you're playing on PC that will zoom out and show you where all the bodies are and where all the patrolling cops are and where you can hide. It's called Cleaner Sense. So you can get a layout of kind of what you're doing. And most of the game eventually becomes down to like, oh, I'm going to go up here and carving your own little path and finding ways to, dump the bodies and stuff. But it's like this arcadey stealth thing. I think the best thing it has going for it is it does play into actual serial killers. I won't spoil it because the game is very level, like small narrative piece level. So once you see something once, it's not going to be like coming up again and again. But there's some levels that are based on actual serial killers from the 70s that are quite funny, and it's wow. It's got that cute little charm. It's kind of like
that cute 70s murderer charm, but they present like very heavy things in like a cheeky, charming way.
Yeah, because the main character you play as, he's just Bob Leaner or the cleaner or something. And in between these levels, you have these small sections where you're in your house and you live in like a suburb with your old mom who's like, like 70 or 80. And you guys watch boxing together. And essentially, you'll just walk up, pick up the phone, and someone will be like, here's your next contract. And you just get in your car and you go away and you do the level. And then you come back and it's, you watch boxing with your mom or whatever. But everything is all. I don't want to say that all the levels are like based on real serial killers because that would be kind of towing the line. A lot of it is just like, oh, the mob killed somebody. But occasionally there'll be things dropped in there where I'm like, wait, isn't that an actual murder? And then I look it up and I'm like, yeah, that is. That's actually kind of funny and it's cute.
But I noticed the animation is a bit like floaty. Does it still feel pretty good to move around?
The controls are very tight, and if there is any sort of leeway or anything that feels weird, it's alleviated by the fact that you can just hide immediately. So getting caught really isn't a big deal. I will admit there's been a few times where I have pressed a button to pick up, an item and it just didn't work. Whether or not that's me being too quick or just whatever. If it was a game where if you get caught immediately in seen, it's over, or if you get seen, there's nowhere to hide, it's over, the game would suck. Literally, the game is amazing. Amazing might be a bit too strong word, but the game is very fun because you can immediately hide thereafter if you get caught, letting you just do a bunch of crazy stuff. It's almost like you're using the AI and the different pieces and you're manipulating them around, and it becomes a game within the game itself. You're not really playing a stealth game. You're playing a game that's based on a stealth game almost at that point.
So like a puzzle action.
Yes.
With stealth
it's
elements.
Almost like every level is a puzzle, and it's just about you because you can brute force it. If you really want, you can run straight at that cop and then hide directly next to him, wait for him to walk away, and then continue on. Or you can play it super stealthy if you want. I've seen some writers who I don't think even realize that hiding, ignores the cops and stuff.
Right.
But I think the best part of that game is definitely the aesthetic. It looks floaty. The art is really colorful. The music is right on with the whole era they're trying to evoke,
right.
And the tongue-in-cheek kind of references to murders of the time. And the writing itself is very, very cute. I would say it's not funny. It's not like super serious. It's kind of like Hotline Miami was, darkly humorous.
Yeah.
It truly does feel like Hotline Miami, but without all the the spraying of the bullets and stuff like that.
And it runs on a toaster, basically. Intel Core Duo 2. Core Duo 2, not a Core 2 Duo.
No, this game is not high intensive. I would say having high frames isn't a big deal. This is one of those games that it doesn't really require super crazy precision because, like I said, if you get caught, you're fine.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, run it. It's going to be on Xbox One. It's going to be on PlayStation 4. The game is pretty cheap. It's published by Curve Digital, which they're great for indie releases. It's developed by, I believe, they're called iFun for All. Or something like that.
Yeah,
it's all one splashed together. But it's just one of those games that feels very charming is the wrong word to use because it's about serial killers. But I would say you can feel the passion that went into it. It's very dedicated in the style it's trying to evoke. And for that, I got to give it props. It's definitely worth a play. If you're into stealth games, go for it. And even if you're not into stealth games, still give it a try because
if people are squeamish with violence, is the sort of comical tone... You would say no.
No, it's not even an issue because you never, at any point, do you ever witness a murder? Honestly, it's just.
Oh, that's a really interesting take.
You literally pull up, you get the call, you pull up, and you're at a crime scene where there's already cops roaming around. You just see the bodies, and when you walk over the bodies, it's pixel art essentially.
Right.
So it's just unless you're afraid of what a dead body looks on a Super Nintendo, you're not going to be And plus, the art is so colorful and non-realistic that
right.
It's just like a bunch of pixels and blood. There's no super gratuitous thing. In one level, you can use an alligator or a swamp to dispose of bodies, but even that, they don't show it. The game is not overtly violent. It just happens to use cleaning up after a murder as its crux. So it's not you're not gonna be squeamish. Honestly, it's probably rated mature, but I didn't even check. But I would say that there's not even a lot of swearing in it. There's really nothing wrong with that game, to be honest. That would deter anybody who's worried about content.
Have you given it a rating yet?
I have not completed it, but at this point, I got to give it a hard 8. It's a good game.
IGN would be happy.
IGN would love me for that. A hard 8. I mean, honestly, it's probably going to be a shorter game, but the fact that it's lenient, some people might not like the idea that it's lenient, that you can just hide and immediately be okay. But for someone like me who doesn't like restarting a level 400 times, I like it. So I don't think it's a game that I'm going to replay a ton. You know, there's not any sort of like speed run aspect that I've run into, or no reason that I really want to. I'm sure some people will enjoy to do that, but it's definitely worth a play, just because it's kind of like if you guys played the one game Viscera Cleaning Simulator or something. It was a first-person game where you used a mop and you cleaned up all the blood after like a Shadow Warrior level. It's kind of that cute juxtaposition between you're so used to killing everything that once you're the dude who has to go in and clean it all up, it's kind of still funny. So definitely a unique idea. Only something you get from an indie game.
All right, well, that's going to do it. Serial Cleaner, highly recommended. Super Fire Pro World, highly recommended if you're into those kind of things.
Get some indies.
Thanks for watching, everybody. You can find us on 90skid.com. You can find me on Twitter at GameThinkTalk. Like or share with a friend. Matt, where is your Twitter stuff?
You can find me on Twitter at SGC64Matt. And if you want to listen to my podcast, it's Super Gamecast 64. And I also write with this guy over at 90skid.com.
It's true. I do the left hand, he does the right hand. And you know what our other hands do. Bye for now.
Play games.